Hello and welcome to Thursday Thoughts. Thursday Thoughts? What on earth are they, I hear you ask? Well, my friend Lucy and I meet every week over on Instagram to talk all things personal growth because she is as obsessed with it as I am. And we decided that we might as well put those conversations out as a weekly podcast. So now you can listen to us chat here on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And we'll be talking about topics such as spirituality, limiting beliefs, the ego, imposter syndrome, gratitude, meditation, confidence, and so much more. So if you're ready, here we go.
Here we are, Monday morning again, and we're talking about time.
Yes.
Shall I just give a bit of
Go for it.
I mean, just one thing I'll say. What cracks me up about these Monday motivations is that you and I literally decided on time this morning at 7:15, like in a text. We hadn't even thought about it, I think, until this morning. So she says, making excuses for her lack of articulateness. But yeah, so the reason I wanted to talk about time is because I think that time is such a weird concept to me, because and I'm sure to lots of people, because I personally feel that time goes so terrifyingly fast. And I always remember that my granny, my gorgeous granny who died a few years ago, she always used to say to me, "Oh darling, the years go by like months the older you get, and time goes quicker." And I would always be like, yeah, do you know what I mean? And then of course, she was so right, and the older we get, the faster time goes. So I just feel, I think it's kind of since I hit 40, 7 years ago, nearly 8 years ago, that I really feel that it goes so quickly, that I feel a kind of an urgency more than I ever have to really make the freaking most of it. And I think the world that we live in today, it is incredibly easy to just get constantly distracted, and before we know it, bang, another day's gone, and we spent half of it scrolling on blooming Instagram or whatever it was. I think it's just, I personally try and be really intentional with my time, and I'm a real planner, and I always know what I'm doing every day. And I have like I have an A4. Oh, thanks, Jella. I have an A4 planner, rose gold planner, which I absolutely love. And because it's A4, you've got like a whole page, and it's divided into sort of half hours. And I literally will write in what I'm doing for the whole day. I mean, not all day, every day, and some days more, some days less. But I find that having a physical planner really helps, because I look at it so I look at it in the evening for that. Well, I have it open all day on my desk, but every evening I will look and just see what I've got for the next day. And I just find that it's so easy, especially at weekends, it's so easy to kind of, if you haven't planned your time for the weekend, it's very easy to just sort of get up and be a bit kind of blah and not really know what you're doing, and you kind of, you might have a slow morning, and then before you know it, the day has gone, and you haven't actually used your time in a way that is productive or intentional or the way you wanted it to do. And then you're like, shit, another day's just gone by. So I just think it's really kind of important to be mindful about how fast time goes, and mindful about the fact that time really is the most precious thing we have, and it's the one thing we can never ever get back. So I'm just really passionate about using it intentionally rather than just letting it come and go. And while that on the one hand might sound really boring to sort of plan my days, for me that works. And it means that I kind of get the most out of my days. And again, obviously not every day, and I'm very far from perfect, but more often than not, it really helps. And also I did a newsletter a couple of weeks ago about time, because I heard a podcast, someone saying on a podcast about the fact that because the other thing about time is, we are, as human beings, it's very easy to constantly say, I don't have the time, I don't have time to do this, I don't have time to do that. But I personally think that we will find the time for the things that we want to do. It's just what we do. We're constantly saying, I don't have the time for this or that or the other, because ultimately, I believe that, you know, we often say that because it is just something that we say. Because if we really wanted to do the thing, then we would find the time to do it, because we all find time to do the things that we want to do. We all find time to sit on social media. We all find time to, watch that Netflix series. So I think it's just really important to be mindful of that. And the podcast that I mentioned just now was talking about the fact that if we took half an hour every day, just 30 minutes out of every day, to work towards something that we've been thinking about for the last 15 fucking years or whatever it is, if we took half an hour a day, we could achieve so much, because half an hour a day is about 3 full weeks. So if you think about having 3 full weeks working on one thing, whether it's writing a book or pursuing a new career or creating whatever it is that you want to create, just half an hour a day, if you can carve out half an hour a day over the course of the year, that's going to make a really big difference, and you can really move forward. So I just want people to think more about using their time wisely and remembering that we can make time for things. And actually, this goes on to a slightly different subject of morning routines. One of the reasons why I use my mornings and I get up early and try and use that time is because it's the best time to get things done, because as soon as your day properly starts, then it's gone. So we've just got to grab that time and make the most of it. And yeah, just by using half an hour a day, which is such a small amount of time, which every single one of us can find in a day, if we're completely honest with ourselves, even if it means giving up half an hour of, let's face it, social media or TV or whatever, we can really make strides in doing something that we really want to do. And one of my favorite things to say is that the time's going to pass anyway. I'm sure I've said it on this before. I'm sure I've said it on my podcast before, but however we use our time, the same amount of time is going to pass anyway. So either we can find that half an hour and do that thing for half an hour every day for the next year and see where we've got to in a year, or we don't. The time is going to pass anyway. It's up to you how you use it.
Yeah, exactly. I myself have been a bit of a journey with how I use my time, and I so know what you're saying. So there was a point in my life when, particularly when my 3 kids were younger, and I was a teacher, and Giles, my husband, was often working, would be up really, really early, not back till really, really late. And I must admit, I felt so restricted and constricted by time restraints, because being a teacher, you have to be in school at a certain time in the morning. You have to be there. You can't leave because you're responsible. You can only have your holidays at a certain time point. So you're very governed by time. And then obviously when you've got your own kids and they've got to be places at certain times, I did feel a bit like, oh my God, I haven't got any time. So I felt that so heavily for such a long time, just trying to do, and then obviously then trying to do all the things I wanted to do at the same time. And I think, anyone with kids will know this, particularly young kids. It's like, how on earth do I go and have even 1 minute to myself when you've got this kind of everybody following you, even into the bathroom, when you want to go to the loo, it's just like they're there all the time. So I've really had to kind of work quite a lot on this concept of like finding those pockets of time to do the things that I really want to do. I mean, one of them was obviously I ended up giving up my teaching job because I did feel so restricted, and I realized that one of my biggest values actually is freedom, and feeling that freedom and wanting to be able to be in charge of my own time. So that was a big decision I had to make in order to really support myself with how those boundaries of time were making me feel. But I did, even when I was teaching and even when my children were very small, some of the things which were very important to me were things like moving my body, exercise, spending some quiet time to myself. And so, yes, I had to find those pockets of time. And you're so right. We all have the same 24 hours in a day. It's how we choose to use those 24 hours and how we choose to prioritize. You know, what is a priority? If you're saying to yourself again and again, oh, I just don't have time to exercise, for example, it's not obvious, it's not a priority for you right now. And I think you just got to be super honest with yourself. So for me, it became a really big priority. So I used to just get up really super early, and I would go to bed earlier so that I could get up earlier, and I would do my exercise before I'd be in the gym at 6 so that I could be showered and everything and be at my teacher back at school by kind of 20 past 7 in the morning. So I would have done that exercise before then, because that was really important to me, and it made me feel so good and so much more energized. And I still do that today. You know, so for example, this morning it's 9 o'clock now. I've been to the gym, I've done some breath work, I've meditated, I've had time. Not to sound smug, but I know that if I hadn't have done it earlier this morning, it just wouldn't have got done, because now I've just literally, again, so today I use Google Calendar, and I like that because people can book things into my calendar and it automatically appears and I can kind of see my week. But then each day I do also write a little list of the things I absolutely have to get done today. And I've actually put an asterisk over the things which are like, there's no non-negotiable, and I have to do them. So it's just really, again, those are my priorities. Once I've done those, yay, great, I can actually then go, even though there's a million other things I need to do, because there always is in life. But once I've done those, actually I can go, okay, I've done that today. I can relax, because otherwise it can feel quite stressful that you're just never getting to the end of your list, because we're never, ever, ever going to get to the end of our list. There's always going to be more. So it's about kind of just really working out what is the most important thing, what is a priority, and getting and doing that. But within that list of priorities, it has to include those things which are very important for you. And it can include downtime, it can include going for a beautiful walk outside. And these are what we're so bad at doing, because when you're so busy and you've got such a massive list, those are the first things which we knock off. So morning, as you say, mornings are a great time to get the things like, you know, meditation, self-care, all that sort of thing. But, you know, later on, I will make sure I get outside. The sun's out, it's a beautiful day. I will incorporate that into my day, because otherwise I'll feel just heavy and
Totally, exactly the same with me. And I think it's important to say here that so many people will probably be rolling their eyes at the thought of getting up early, and I think people are missing a trick, because that is the time to get shit done. If your day, you know, we all have busy lives, and sometimes that is the only chance to get the things done that you want to get done is first thing in the morning. And whilst for so many people it's like, oh my god, the thought of getting up early, it's just such a powerful way of clawing back some extra time in your day. And yes, it might mean you have to go to bed a bit earlier, but like you say, we have to think about what's important to us. We have to prioritize. And I think that one thing that people can do, we can all do it, but, you know, myself included, be really honest with yourself. You know, what you can do is you can take a day and you can literally write down exactly how you spend every freaking half an hour of that day, or every 15 minutes of that day, and look and see, where are you wasting time? Because all of us are wasting time in the day. You know, somewhere in the day we're all wasting some time.
God. Yeah,
and probably, I think we'd probably be quite shocked by how much time we are wasting without even realizing it. And that might be on something like social media, or it might be on something like watching 2 hours of Netflix a night, or whatever it is. But I think if you actually make a note over the course of one day as to exactly how you're using your time, and then you can work out from there where you might be able to get some time back. But again, the morning thing, getting up early, even if you just get up, even if you start getting up just half an hour early and then maybe an hour early, it is just what, you know, I was never, ever, ever a morning person. Like, ask any one of my friends, any of my family, they will all say she was never a morning person. I wasn't. And it frustrates me when people say, oh, I'm just not a morning person even, because we can choose to be morning people. Unless you happen to have a job, you know, where you're a musician and you're playing a gig every night and you're coming home at midnight or whatever, that's, you know, obviously that's completely different. But probably for the majority of us who aren't necessarily working, late nights, and we can go to bed relatively early, it is very possible to make that commitment to yourself and to get up early. And like I say, it's not you. I personally, I mean, many people may disagree with me, but I don't believe that there is such a thing as being a morning person or not a morning person. I think it's a choice that you make. It's a decision that you make. And if you want to change things in your life, and if you want to use your time better, and you want to kind of start, reaching those goals and using your time better, then the morning is such a good opportunity to get shit done before the day starts. And whilst it does feel like, oh my God, the thought of getting up crazy early, you and I can both attest to the fact that it is a game changer. It makes your life better. It really, really does. If you can just get past that block of, oh my God, the thought of getting up early. And especially now we're going to autumn, it's going to be dark, la la la. But there's something so incredibly special about that time in the early morning when the rest of the world is still sleeping. And like you say, by 9 o'clock in the morning, you've done, you've been to the gym, you've done breathwork, you've done meditation. And that's normally how my mornings are as well. I'll go for a walk early, I'll meditate, I'll do some breath work, and then you get to 9 o'clock and you're like, holy shit, I've achieved. And not only does that give you time back, it makes you feel so good. And it makes you feel so much better. I mean, the mornings where I don't do my morning routine, and I don't do it every morning because I'm a human being, and some mornings I've had to stay up late for some reason and I'm tired, so I don't get up at 5. But most of the time I try to, and it's it really is just such a game changer.
Yeah.
So
A very quick break to ask you to hit the follow or subscribe button if you haven't already. And if you're enjoying this episode, I'd be super grateful if you could hit those stars and rate it too. Thank you. And, as you say, God, I'm not perfect at all. I still suddenly will find myself having literally gone down some Instagram rabbit hole and been suddenly realised, oh my God, I've been scrolling for about an hour. And then it's just such a horrible feeling because it does feel like a complete waste of time. And then it just puts you in that sort of mindset of like, oh God, and then you, for me anyway, I'm then more likely just to procrastinate for the rest of the day because I'm just like, I'm feeling a bit rudderless and directionless. Whereas when I'm a bit more organized and I'm kind of very conscious of how I'm spending my time, I'm just much more productive. But it is very easy to kind of procrastinate. And I think that is one of the biggest problems when it's often that avoidance strategy. I know if there's something, for example, I'm putting off, I don't really want to do, and I'll find anything else. Oh, it's something like, oh my gosh, actually, I need to fold up the washing now, and I need to go and do this. And obviously all those jobs need to get done, but it does help when you are really focused. And that's why, I like writing a list in the morning. It's like I really get those things done, and then I can start, then I can go and do some of those other things. We're all going to spend some time scrolling Instagram, and I must admit, like TV, I'm so in and out with TV, but I do really enjoy getting into a series and maybe spending an hour. An hour. It's not actually never probably an hour. It's probably less than that. 45 minutes in an evening watching something, because actually it is a really nice way to unwind and to relax. It's like we can still do those things, but it's just being intentional about it and not just watching mindless crap on TV, which isn't gonna, which isn't doing anything to help anybody,
Yeah, completely. And I think that, I mean, you're absolutely right. You can still do those things, but that's why I think it's a really good idea to plan your time more and be more intentional with it. Because the problem is that I'm just going to flick something off my screen. There's a reminder come up. I think the problem is in the society that we live in, we are constantly being pulled in a million different directions by a million different distractions, whether it's something on the news that comes up on our phone, or whether it's Instagram, where we intend to just go in and post something and then end up scrolling for an hour, or whether it's
just go through your emails in the morning. I mean, when I can go through my emails in the morning and then suddenly it's like, oh my God, I just spent an hour replying or doing, suddenly responding to whatever I have to do. And that can just take your focus away. It's something like, my gosh, that took a whole hour. And actually, I was just having a quick look. So you actually have to build that time
Completely.
in sensibly.
Completely.
Yes, sorry.
No. Which is why I think it's a really good idea for anyone who doesn't sort of plan their time. You know, getting a planner is I think a really good idea, because if you literally you put things in, the sort of important things in every day, and every evening before you go to bed you can just look at it and sort of set that intention for the next day, that what you want to get done, what you've got to get done the following day, rather than. And I think actually for weekends it's also important, because you know those people, and there are obviously many people who work at 9 to 5 job, Monday to Friday. I think the weekends then are that precious time that we really want to be using, that weekend time really intentionally, because that is the time that we have, that's our time when we're not at work, for people who are working Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. But so I personally think that it's really easy at the weekend, like I said at the beginning, to just kind of roll out of bed and just be a bit, just sort of, your day just kind of drifts. And
Yeah, but I quite like that sometimes, though, Lucy. I'm just, because actually sometimes, particularly at the moment, I feel like I have had just the most ridiculously busy time, and I feel that it's coming to an end. I can sort of see sort of an end to this season, this particular busy season of my life, just because a few projects and things are coming to an end. And I must admit, I'm going to be incredibly intentional about not suddenly immediately filling that time with other things, because I really feel that sometimes when you're so busy and you've got so much going on, that makes time go very, very quickly, and you kind of almost forget to enjoy it all, and to I want it to feel easy. I think I want my passing of my days to feel easy and joyful. And I think there is a tendency for all of us to be so busy, and so we're rushing through, and we've got so much stuff in our calendars. And I know, like, particularly weekends, and particularly through this whole summer, every weekend it's been busy, we've been away, we've been doing things, and actually we've got coming up a few weekends now where there's nothing in. And I must admit, for me, that makes my heart sing, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I've got nothing in. And actually I can really just be at home and just be a bit more fluid. So I think for me that I quite like having those weekends where it's a bit more fluid, and I can just sort of go, okay, well, let's go for a walk, let's do this, and be a bit more spontaneous.
yeah, no, it makes total sense, and I know exactly what you mean, because for me, my favorite weekends are the weekends where there is nothing in the diary. But I think what I'm getting at is, when there's nothing in the diary, you how can I sort of articulate this? I Even when there's nothing in my diary at the weekend, I still want to feel like I've used my time well at the weekend.
Yeah.
And and I don't mean I want this and I want to go there and I want to see this person and I want to go out for dinner and I don't mean that. I just mean that when it comes to our time that we have to ourselves, that precious time when we don't have anything in the diary, like we don't have to be at work, or we don't have to be here, or we don't have to be there. I think that is the time where, yes, I totally hear what you're saying. And yes, you want to just be able to be a bit more fluid and not necessarily have plans. But at the same time, that is the time that you want to spend in a way that you feel good about spending it, rather than just letting an entire Saturday or an entire Sunday go past and you get to the end of the day and you're like, well, what the fuck have I been doing? I don't feel like I used that time well. So rather, I think there's a sort of a happy medium between bridge your free time and being the complete opposite of that, and being just sort of not drifting through a day, because of course it's great. And don't get me wrong, it's great to drift through a day and go for a walk when you feel like it, or whatever it may be. But I think it's more what I'm trying to say is that we don't want to be drifting through a day in the wrong way.
Yeah.
Which does that that make
Yeah,
sense?
totally. Yeah, because so for example, I can think of an example of something which I'm not doing, which I would really like to be doing, which is just generally to read more books. I generally have about 5 books on the go always at one point, so I never get to the end of them. Because I say, oh gosh, I just never get around to doing it. I generally will lie in bed, I'll read a page and then I fall asleep and then I forget what I've read. So I would, the weekend is obviously a perfect opportunity to actually really sit down and read a book. And I generally don't do it because so actually you're right. If I intentionally said, right, actually, I'm going to sit down for an hour and just read would be a really lovely thing to do. And I would really feel so good about that. And then actually finally finish some of the books I'm reading. So yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the message is really, isn't it, that it's just so important because time is so precious and because time goes fast, especially the older you get. It's just so important to be mindful of it. And I think even again, it always comes back to awareness. But
Yes.
just being more aware of what you are doing with your time, I think can be a really good thing because life is short. So we want to make sure that we're not frittering time away. And I think that's what is so easy to do in this day and age with social media and with a million distractions. And distractions can be great, but the problem is that there are so many distractions that aren't necessarily great.
Yeah. It goes
And
back to that thing as well, doesn't it? Of like the I'll be happy when,
yeah,
we kind of it's very easy for us to think, well, I'll just keep doing this job until I've got enough money to do this or whatever. But actually I don't really enjoy that job, or I'll be happy when I've lost that weight or whatever. And it's actually like, well, when are you actually going to do that? Because this is it. This is, as they say, this is not a life. This is not a dress rehearsal. We are living life. It's actually, let's do the things now which make us feel good and are going to light us up. Because what are we waiting for? When we're 70, 80 to start living our life? It's like, well, let's do it now. And I think the older we get, the more we realize that, because obviously it feels like, oh gosh, actually we're halfway through our lives at least now. So we've got to do the things now, live now, stop waiting for in the future. I think it's so easy, isn't it? Just to go, well, I'll do this just for now because I'm waiting for something better. But it's like, no, let's just live in the moment and do it all now.
completely. And again, going back to what we were talking about right at the very beginning, that podcast that I was referring to, just half an hour a day, if you can carve out 30 minutes every day to work on that thing that you want to do or that you've been talking about for the last 25 years and you still haven't got around to it, if you just give it half an hour a day, even if it's just like researching something that you're interested in, but just starting to take those baby steps for half an hour a day, just think where you might be in a year's time, and the time is going to pass anyway. So we can either use our time well and it'll pass anyway, or we can use our time in a really not productive way and in a really, getting distracted by ridiculous, pointless things that aren't actually adding any value to our lives, and the time's going to pass anyway too.
Yeah. I mean, it just makes me think of a friend of mine who frustrates me beyond belief. He is the best. He's such a talented writer. He writes so beautifully and he wants to be a writer. But the problem is, anyway, lots of different issues. And currently, at the moment, he is driving an Ocado lorry and he's a delivery driver. And he's saying that he doesn't have any time to write. And it drives me insane because it's like, well, are you writing? And he's like, well, I don't have any time. But of course he has time. And exactly what you're saying, if he just wrote for half an hour a day, just to write, just to get his creative juices flowing, maybe do a blog, do something, who knows what is possible. Oh, I really want him to listen to this because it's just like, it is, you've just got to do the thing that you really, if you keep saying, I really want to, write a book, or I really want to start a charity, or I really want to, whatever it is, whatever the thing is, yes, just start it, just start using that time to put it in place. And Lucy, you're an amazing example of this. You're currently writing a book, you have been working in a coffee shop, you have got so many episodes of podcasts you're producing, and you're doing it all. And particularly with your book, you were saying, I don't know when I'm going to do it, but as you say, you're just finding pockets of time which you can dedicate to that and it will get done. So yeah.
And just as a final thought, like, you know, we can never get time back. We can't get the time back. And I think if you wake up every morning with that thought in mind, then you're just going to automatically use your time better. Because when you just remind yourself, I'm not going to get, this is the only 25th of December 2023 that we're ever going to get. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Well, on that note, that's going to be productive.
Oh my god. That was intense Monday motivation.
I know we always get can get quite intense on those Monday motivations.
I know. Oh,
Well done. Good work.
right back at you, and I'll see you tomorrow for our breathwork
Yeah,
session.
perfect.
Right. Thanks.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.